Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastuma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I think people want to listen to bhajans more than the questions, looks like. Could Swamiji please explain how Bhuman and Brahman are different words in literal sense? Isn't Brahman Bruhatvat Brahman, Bruhatvat Brahma, and Bahutvam Bhuman? Doesn't it generally mean the same? But they are not Paryaya Shabda. They are not synonyms. In this particular context, they amount to the same meaning, but they are not used in the same meaning. The word Brahma is used for many things. It is masculine gender, neutral gender. In masculine gender, it can mean Hiranyagarbha, it can mean a Brahmana, it can mean Veda. In neutral gender, it would mean Brahman. And Bhuman means abundant. In this context, it amounts to saying that it is Brahman, Ananta. So, in this particular context, the word Bhuman is used to indicate a meaning which is similar to the meaning of Brahman, but they are not Paryaya Shabda. And so, they are made to mean the same. In this context, word Bhuman is used, that it amounts to saying it is Brahman. So yes, they could have used word Brahma also, use word Bhuman also. But they are different words, derived differently, and not synonyms, not Paryaya Shabda. We said Bhuma to be abundant or limitless. When we say something as limitless, it has to be with reference to the limited things of the world. Yet, when we occasionally get a glimpse of that Bhuma, as total peace or contentment, it has a totally different dimension, unlike limitless being opposite to limited. Can you please throw some light on the expression limitless? The word limit, you are right, the word limitless is used to withdraw our mind from the limited. The word anatma is used, for example, to withdraw the mind from non-self. Or drashta is used that it is not drushya. So word drashta also is used in order to withdraw our mind from drashya. Then drashta does not remain drashta also when we analyze what drashta is only drashti. Drashta means seer. Drushya means the seen. So it is true that when we use the word drashta, it is with reference to drushya. So the Atma is called Drashta. But Atma is called Drashta in number one, only a temporary sense to first convey that Drushya is not Atma. And that's how to negate the Drushyatvam, the word Drashta is used. And then what is Drashta? Without reference to Drushya, Drashta turns to be Drashti. So again, this is a method of prakriya to arrive at drashti or consciousness. Similarly, limitless is to deny the limited. Then you find that there is no entity called limitless that opposes something else. So limitless ultimately remains unopposed to anything, because if it is opposed, it cannot be limitless. So word limitless is used for us to drop the idea of limitedness. However, so limitless is that which is not limited. But that which is not limited, naturally it should not have limitedness in that, so all limitedness is given up. Then limitless also does not remain, because limitless is only with reference to limitedness. So what we arrive at is, again, not drashta but drashti, or limitless means boundless, abundant, formless, attributeless, nirvishesha. So to help us arrive at nirvishesha, these words are used, which ultimately the vachyartha or literal meaning of the word is dropped. The vachyartha helps us to negate all other vachyarthas. Like the word drashta helps us negate the drushya. Then Atma does not remain drashta in primary sense also. But at least one thing is clear, that it is not drushya. So when all the drushya is denied, then so what is drashta? Now without drushya there is no drashta also. So then what remains when you let go of drushya? Only drashti remains. So limitless also is first to let go of limited, which we know. So whatever you know is drushya, you give up all you know is limited. So what we know, what we can objectify is all. It's not so. Then what remains now is that which cannot be objectified, which is the very subject, which is nirvishesha, unqualified. And so, to help us appreciate the unqualified, these words are used, and therefore ultimately you can only say that Atma is the lakshyartha of a given word, not the vachyartha. But how do you arrive at lakshyartha? First of all, start with vachyartha, which helps us deny everything, in this case the limited. Then the word limitless also loses its primary sense and lives what is free from limitation. We'll see that tomorrow, that discussion will come as to how we read the passage, yat nanyat pashyati, nanyat shrunoti, nanyat vijanati, sabhuma. So what does it mean? Well, let's see tomorrow whether we get some more clarity about how the Shruti helps us to arrive at the nirvishesha. That's also a word, but anyway, nirvishesha. With reference to vishesha you can say. After getting clarity about self, Viparita Bhavana remains. What is Viparita Bhavana? Dehatma Buddhi, habitual error, meaning that habitual identification with the body remains. And therefore, habit is formed on account of a wrong understanding of the past. When that wrong understanding is repeated and repeated, it becomes a habit. And so the word used is Dehatma Buddhi, the identification of Deha, Viparita Bhavana, or Vasana. Deha Vasana means the again, or Samskara. So when Samskaras then become the modes of the mind, tendencies of the mind, they are called Vasanas. So we can say that there is Vasana of, means habit. The habitual pattern of the mind can be called Vasana. What is meant by habitual pattern is that without your effort, it just happens, that's called habit. Thus, without any effort or without any will, we just habitually identify with the body and take the body as a self. So this is also ignorance. So ignorance is in the form of avaram, meaning not knowing, form of samshaya or the doubt, in the form of this viparita buddhi or the habitual error. Ignorance has three expressions, and therefore there are three modes prescribed to get over with this. So by Shravanam we gain the knowledge, thus that ignorance, avaranam goes away, and samshaya also goes away by proper reasoning. But this one, habit doesn't go away. Habit means what? Not being alert. So after gaining the knowledge of self, when we are alert, at that time, then you are Brahman because you are alert of that fact. But when we are not alert, then you fall in the old rut called habit, and thus that habitual thinking pattern again takes over. Very often we resolve to do something. So today is such and such day and I am going to observe a fast. So this is what you resolve at some place in the mind. But habit of eating 5 times a day, that's a habit which is in a different location. So in order that the habit does not take over my mind, I should be alert that today is Ekadashi, today is fast, today is only water or without water, whatever you resolve you made. What is habit? When we are not alert, at that time habitual thinking takes over, and so the habit is when something is in front of me, it just goes in my mouth. That's a habit. So when something comes before me, the habit takes over, then I realize, hey, today is Ekadashi, I should not have eaten that. So this is called habitual error. That in spite of understanding what speaking truth is, what the value is, that my resolve that I'm going to speak truth. However, when I'm not alert, then my habit of speaking, it's not habit of speaking lie, but very often I conveniently say that's called white lie. And so to avoid certain consequences, some embarrassment, I say things. That's the main habit. And so if I am not alert, then I again say what I have been habitually saying, then I realize I should not have said. I should not use harsh words. But so I've been using them. Then if I am not alert, I use the word. Then I realize, oh, I should not have said it. I should not have done it. So this sense of regret often arises in us because we did what we resolve not to do. The resolve works when we are alert or awareful. When we are not alert, then habit takes over. So similarly also, that I am the body is a habit long, supposed to be from Anadi Kala. And I have been behaving that way as body. Now that I know that I am Brahman, and you are Brahman as long as you retain that awareness, but if that body thing comes, then at that time I am body. So therefore what is called Nididhyasanam is practice of awareness of creating a new habit. What's the new habit? Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. So mind is made to repeat this justi, such that a new habit is created. So Brahmatma Buddhi is a new habit which overcomes the Dehatma Buddhi, meaning that this habit must be made as strong as the Dehatma Buddhi. Then it becomes abiding knowledge. Although they talk of this, once the knowledge takes place, there is not a big deal. Knowledge cannot take place with all kinds of strong Dehata Buddhi anyway. Knowledge requires Antahakana Shuddhi, it requires, Antahakana. So, do not worry about this Dehata Buddhi. Swami, how do I decide I am not the one? Don't worry. Let us focus on the purification of our mind to make our mind sattvic. Because there is a mind overcome by rajas that is habitually identifies. The habitual error is mainly with rajas. With sattva then the mind becomes more alert, more abiding. And therefore, as the mind becomes sattvic, the Dehata Buddhi automatically becomes kshinam or becomes reduced. So, primary, I should not say primary, very important sadhana is Antahakana Shuddhi. By right values and attitudes. Values, amanitam, adambitvam, ahimsa. Attitudes, Ishvarana Buddhi. Prasad, these are called attitudes. Prasad Buddhi is an attitude. Not a value, attitude. Ishvarana Buddhi, that's why it's Buddhi. So Buddhi Yoga Upashritya. That Buddhi Yoga is Karma Yoga, is a yoga of attitude. The value is taken for granted. There is no ever any kind of sanction of compromising values. So when you perform karma, it is taken for granted that you are following the value of dharma. That's a different thing. So performing action in keeping with dharma is expected. When does it become yoga? When the attitude comes. So Lord Krishna's Buddhi Yoga Upashritya. Buddhi here means the right attitude. What Swami used to call Karma Yoga is yoga of attitude. Amazing, clarity and perception, yoga of attitude. This you don't get anywhere. What is attitude? Prasad Buddhi is attitude. Ishvara Buddhi is attitude. So that when we perform actions with these attitudes, then it's called yoga. When you perform action, honestly, that is expected. Ishvara Buddhi is not expected. Prasad Buddhi is not expected from you, but that you should be honest, that, that ahimsa, satya, asteya, that's all expected. That is called dharma and that is good. But in itself that does not make it yoga. When an action is performed with the right values and attitude, so karmanyevadikaraste, that karma not only means dharma, of course it does, but ma phaleshu kadachana, when Lord Krishna says an attitude, that may you give up your attachment to the karma phala. Meaning perform the action without a personal agenda. Then whose agenda? Perform the action to fulfill Ishvara's agenda. That's called Ishvararma Buddhi. If that is not there, I do always do for personal agenda. It's not a crime or offense to do that. I mean, it's natural. As long as you follow dharma, then it's all right. But so long, we are dharmic people. But yoga begins when the attitude changes. Just by being an honest person, I am not a yogi. I am a dharmatma, dharmanishta person, which is minimum expected out of me. But when the action based on dharma is further performed as an offering to Ishvara, to fulfill Ishvara's agenda, that's when it becomes yoga. So, what I am saying is that these are the means of purification of mind. Values and attitudes. And of course, prayers, all of that, worship. Bring Ishvara into our life. This is the means of purification of mind. And we are studying, doing Shravanam, Mananam, do everything. But also continue to do this. With reference to Amanitvadi, Lord Krishna says, Etad jnanamiti proktam ajnanam yadatonyatha. This amanitvam, adambitvam is called jnanam. Ata anyat means opposite of that is called ajnanam, manitvam, dambitvam. Because then Bhashyakara explains that this is the group of virtues, amanitvadi, which makes a person, makes jignasu fit for knowledge, which makes a sannyasi fit for jnana-nishtha. So these values are also, it prepares a person for gaining knowledge, and you continue with them because they are also the means for abundance in knowledge. Therefore, they are continued. So that is why word prayojaka is used. Prayojaka means not only a cause, but something that continues along with the effect. That is that this continues. While Shravanam, all of the constant attempt for self-purification or antahkarana always continues. Keep on refining and refining. Meaning that our commitment to the right values and attitudes continues in Shravanam, Mananam, in everything. And as our mind becomes sattvic, automatically the identification of the body automatically loosens when Rajoguna loosens. So you don't have to make a separate attempt. You make attempt while meditating, etc. But it will work when the mind becomes sattvic. Until then, I am not the body is more worse than. And therefore, this must always be there. That I continue to work for antahkarana shuddhi. That's called kruti. Indriya sanyama. And chitta ekagra karanam. They samadhi shrika sampatti. Now, how did I get into that? From this viparita bhavana. That the viparita dhyata buddhi also, don't worry too much about it. Do this and pay attention to the purification of the mind. That will, because unless viparita bhavana, mind has essentially become pure, knowledge cannot take place. The way they describe viparita bhavana is a fellow is still as stupid as before. And it cannot be. You essentially done that. There is not a whole lot of viparita bhavana remains that They describe it that way. But so let me read the question again. If getting clarity about self, Viparithamana remains, or sometimes triggers based on situations, etc., this is a changing svabhava of mind. It is not svabhava of mind, it is a habit of identification. Not changing, it's not, so habitual error or identification of buddhi, body, etc., is a habit. And as I said, the only way that a habit can be overcome is by becoming alert. And secondly, by creating another habit so that you don't remain alert. By being alert, you do not submit to the habit, and by creating another habit, you eliminate that habit. So that's the way. Mind itself mithya, etc. is of no purpose. Mind is mithya, so what? It identifies anyway. So by saying mind is mithya, but Shastra talks about a state of mind which does not change with reference to self. So how to understand this, that mithya mind learns or realizes something and retains that in all situations? No, this question started with habitual error and gone to a different thing. I think the question seems to be how mind that is mithya gains knowledge of satyam. Is that the question here?
The first part is the viparit bhavana, like habitual error, which remains even after person has clear understanding about the self. So this can be, for me, this can be understood like because mind itself is not the true self. True self is already the Jnana Swarupa. So the mind, suppose I am a Jnani tomorrow, so my mind is actually what is getting the nishtha, not my true self. So the mithya has a one common thing is it changes. It's not bad, but it changes. It's not a permanent thing. So the thing which is getting the jnanam or retaining the jnanam is a changing thing. So how that changing thing can get the nitya nishtha? That is the question.
Yeah. We are talking about habit. When you say viparita bhavana, it is the habit of identifying with the body. So we would overcome the habit. And that we discussed. How? By being alert about the nature of my swarupa and creating a habit of identification with Brahman. So wherever the viparita bhavana is, that is where the nishtha is. So don't do the mithya and stuff like that, because what does it matter? Mind is where ignorance is, there ignorance goes. Mind is where the habit is, that's where the habit has to be removed. Is that clear?
So like also we say that mind is also mithya, like mano, chittanunaham, all those Nemaharashtakam, it says like mind is also mithya. So it changes, then can it retain in all the situation, all the emotional impulses, all the circumstances, can it retain the nishtha?
It can. It can by practice. So yes, mind may have some restlessness, etc. Abhyasena kaunteya vairagyan cha gruhyate. So Lord Krishna teaches, and Yoga Shastra teaches, Abhyasa and Vairagya. That is how the mind can be made free from its habit of changing or restlessness. And mind can be made steady. That's all Yoga Shastra is about, and that's what Ekagrata, Antakarana Shuddhi and Antakarana Ekagrata is. So as the mind becomes sattvic, it is more abiding. Mind is changing when there is a lot of rajas is predominant, but mind becomes abiding when it becomes sattvic. So we have to make our mind, that's what I said, Antakarana Shuddhi means making the mind sattvic. So that is when it becomes steady, and that is where the knowledge, the steadiness remains. So mind is made steady by making it sattvic.
Swamiji, is there is a possibility, because mind is also has a changing there, is there is a possibility that after Jnana Nishtha or getting Sattva, it can go back again to the backtrack? Is it, there is a possibility?
Whatever samskaras of Dhyatma Buddhi are there, when those samskaras are triggered, then the mind identifies the body habitually. You become alert and again de-identify. That's a process. When that process is done, then mind becomes free from that habitual identification progressively, and you can gain abidance in knowledge. So mind can become abiding by practice.
Because we don't know, Swami, like what is there in the mind, what is hidden in the Smriti. There are some sadhana which they say Smriti Pradhan sadhana, where they have techniques to unlock the past karma or to, so, but in our practice we don't know what is in the memory or Smriti. So what is hidden in the, or what are the samskaras are there. So can there be a possibility after Jnana Nishtha or getting a sattvic pravritti that again it can go back to the, it can lose the Nishtha? Is there a possibility?
You don't lose. You momentarily become deviated from that, and then you come back. It is possible that some samskara at a given time may arise in the mind. It may deviate you from that Jnana Nishtha, then again you bring it back. So that practice is to be done as long as the samskaras are essentially eliminated. So Mano Nasha, Vasanaksha, etc., these are all the things described in Vedanta also, Yoga Shastra also. There is a text called the Jivan Mukti Viveka, where this exactly Jivan Mukti means abidance in the knowledge. And where the obstacles are, where the mind itself becomes an obstacle because of its impulses, where past habits become obstacle, and how to treat with them. That when we say values and attitude, takes care of all of this. Takes care of the past samskaras. Otherwise the values, because the nature of mind. So we practice the value, and therefore the tendency of the mind to violate the value is slowly overcome.
Swamiji, isn't it ignorance once gone does not come back?
But ignorance is avaranam, ignorance is samshaya, ignorance is dhyata buddhi. When that goes away, it doesn't come. But that also has to go. Okay, good. So, our Ram will sing a nice bhajan.